What is going on, everybody? I hope you're having a wonderful day today. My name is Nestor Sanchez, and this is my boy Ryan.
What is going on, guys? Thank you guys for tapping into today's podcast. Much appreciated as always.
And to stay in tune with what we're doing, my boy Ryan's Instagram is at Rye the Crypto Guy. Mine is at The Bag Chaser. You can follow us there, ask us any questions you want, and make sure to stay to the end to hear more additional resources that we have for you guys in order to get you more zoned into the cryptocurrency space. And without further ado, we're going to be talking about the future of money.
So before we begin in the future of money, I kind of want to talk a little bit about something called FedNow, right? So FedNow is a payment system that connects banks, businesses, and people. It's similar to other payment systems like PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, but it's controlled by the Fed. Now, this is not the federal government. This is the Federal Reserve. So the Fed is actually an entity within our U.S. government that kind of controls our cash reserves. It controls all of our cash, whether they want to print more, release more. Let's say Congress wants to approve another COVID plan, or for instance, like during the COVID pandemic, right? What they had to do was they had to ask the Fed to print out more cash so that way they can go ahead and send to Americans for stimulus payments. And so what the Fed does is they kind of regulate the U.S. economy by regulating the cash that flows into it.
So yeah, they also have other things like they control the GDP, they control inflation rates, and like Ryan was saying, it's not necessarily our government because we do not actually vote anybody into power, which is crazy. They actually get voted in by Congress, if I'm not mistaken. So in reality, it's crazy that we don't actually control them.
Well, it's not that they get voted in; they get appointed. They don't even get. There's not even a vote. There's someone that appoints them to be on the board of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, so when you think about that, that is a little suspicious. How are we not able to vote them in when they control so much of our economy? Just kind of wanted to put that out there to see why maybe crypto could be a potential answer.
What I believe what they did with FedNow was they created it to combat cryptocurrency and really to combat other nations and to combat the decline of the U.S. dollar. Let me explain this a little bit more. So what FedNow does, it actually, or what it can become, is they could potentially make everyone use it, so that way they control user spending. They can make it so that way we get our tax returns through there, our stimulus checks, unemployment, all through this system, right? And what it really does is it offers centralized digital currency. So it's a way for the government to kind of basically take back control of people's money since they can't control crypto. So it was really convenient around the time that they announced FedNow. And they acted really quickly on it after cryptocurrency started to just explode back in 2018. And so, honestly, I think that FedNow really is a alternative to cryptocurrency that they're providing, so that way they have some type of control over our money. Because without the control that they have right now with cryptocurrency, which is very little, in terms of regulation, they don't really have control with that. They're really lost because they're losing a lot of money to the cryptocurrency industry. Not only that, they're losing a lot of money to the dollar being inflated. Other nations as well are jumping on to the digital currency alternative because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get away from the US dollar. I know China is in the process of creating their own digital currency as well, and so it's kind of like a race to see who can create the digital currency first that is very successful at it and will actually utilize it inside of their nation. There's a lot to break down when it comes to FedNow. I kind of don't really want to jump into it too much, but if you guys have any more concerns about FedNow, you're more than welcome to drop your questions or concerns down below, and we'll go ahead and make sure those are answered. If you guys are listening on Spotify or any other audio podcast stations, there should be an option for you guys to do like a Q&A, and you could drop your questions inside of that Q&A as well, and we'll make sure we get them answered in our next episode.
I do want to talk about the differences between a digital currency and a cryptocurrency. Now, I think this is one step towards cryptocurrency, but it is still going to be a digital currency. So when you think about the money that we have now, it's either you have cash or you have your money in a bank, right? The money in the bank is not necessarily cash. within your bank, they are not holding. Let's just say you have $100,000 account. They are not holding $100,000 bills, right? And most of it, most of the cash in the world, the digital money in the world, is not cash. It's not paper. I think it was like 80% of it is literal digital money. So that is digital currency, right? It's still controlled by the US government. It's still all around the government's money. And cryptocurrency is not controlled by any entity, right? So it is one step, this Fed now, it's one step to digitizing all the money, right? Soon, I feel like in a certain point, they're going to be like, hey, we're not accepting cash anymore at all. Everything is going to be run through either banks or this Fed now system. And I think the next step after that would be something called a CBDC. This is a central bank digital currency. Now, this is similar to a cryptocurrency, but it's still controlled by that central bank. So I think this is very interesting. They're going to make it so that everything is digitized. Everything is run through, like I said, either a bank or either through some type of system so that there can't be any anonymity, right? When I use cash, it does not say Nestor spent $20 at the liquor store, right? It doesn't matter who the heck I am, because as long as I have cash, it doesn't matter because anybody accepts cash. Now, if I spend it on my card, or if I spend it through Cash App, or if I spend it through Zelle, this all ties my identity to that money. Now, I think the Fed, they want more control, like Ryan was saying. They can't control your cryptocurrency, but they can control your dollar. So if they have everything digitized, everyone's going to be able to see, well, at least the central bank, at least the Fed is going to be able to see all your purchases, where your money's going, and how it's moving. And this is kind of the opposite of what cryptocurrency tries to implement, right? They want anonymity, but still safety, right? So this is why a lot of people are saying Bitcoin could be the answer, because it's anonymous to an extent, right? It doesn't really matter who I am. As long as I send them Bitcoin, a Bitcoin is a Bitcoin, you know? So similar to cash, right? As long as you have cash, cash is cash. It doesn't matter who sends it. So Bitcoin is that currency that's not controlled by a government. It's not controlled by a specific group of people, but can be sent anywhere and used anywhere. So I think that's definitely one way to get out of this whole CBDC structure, out of this whole Fed now structure. And crazy thing is, a lot of people are thinking this as well, right? I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's already some legislation happening within Florida where they banned CBDCs because they don't want all this control from the centralized government. So they're banning CBDCs in order to make sure that people have this anonymity, people are able to utilize cash, because I think it's very scary when you have the government looking over your shoulder on every purchase, because money is power at the end of the day. So they want to know where your power is going to, and they want to be able to control that. Now, I do have a question for you, Ryan. Would you trust a CBDC?
Well, in retrospect, I mean, there's a lot of things that I actually was just about to bring this up. There's a lot of things that I feel like when it comes to CBDCs, they don't necessarily turn me off. I mean, I like the fact that there is some type of regulation. There is some type of structure that is being formed with CBDCs. I feel like right now when it comes to our U.S. government, there's not a lot of clear stance on how our government wants to treat cryptocurrency, right? And so like when you're looking at CBDCs and you're looking at the potential opportunity that they can bring to in terms of like regulation, I think that it is a solid idea, but is it necessarily a beneficial one? I don't believe so. I believe that CBDCs are more of like a get out of jail free card for our banks and for our Fed, just because it is a fallback mechanism. So like they're trying to compete as much as they can with cryptocurrency. And in order to do so, they have to literally create a whole new currency just to do so. And so it's kind of like they're, like I said, they're get out of jail free card, because without it, I really do think that cryptocurrency can be a cash and bank killer. And so they have to do as much as they can to get ahead of the game in order to prevent themselves from being taken over by the cryptocurrency space.
Yeah, and I would actually agree with you on that, because it is just digital currency at the end of the day. Like, we already have, like I said, most of our money is digital currency now. So I don't think it's necessarily a problem, but I think it's going to start to become an issue if and or when they decide to start programming this money, right? Because a lot of the times, well, right now, we can utilize our money however we want. But what if for the next stimulus check, we have $1,000 stimulus, right? But $400 has to be directly spent on food. $400 has to be directly spent on clothing. And then $200 can be spent on rent or other things, right? So I think that's when we're going to have a problem, when we have the government controlling how we spend our money. Because it's a digital currency, now it's going to be able to be programmed. So I think that could be the next step, and that step kind of is what will put some fear into me. What if they're telling me, hey, you can't spend half your check on crypto like I want to, right? Well, why not? Well, why are you limiting me? And these are things that concern me when it comes to a CBDC.
Yeah, and not only that, right now with cash, we also have the opportunity, although it is trash, we have the opportunity to kind of use it anywhere we want, right? Not necessarily for illegal or illicit activities, but we can have the opportunity to use it wherever we want. So when thinking about that, if we're all leaving our money online, how does that give us the opportunity to use cash wherever else? What if we go somewhere that doesn't accept card, only accepts cash, and then we're transitioning from a digital or physical area to a digital area, but at the same time, do we have to keep that physical area still in mind? Because although this is a new digital era for money, people are still living within the physical era. They don't accept card. They don't accept cryptocurrency. So it's just running through that struggle as well as, I don't like CBDCs, or I don't like this whole centralization of currency being monitored. But at the same time, are we considering the fact that the world is progressing, the world is moving forward in the digital space? So are we going to argue that CBDCs aren't beneficial because they're being monitored, or are we going to argue the fact that CBDs are beneficial because it's pushing the production of money into a new era?
I honestly think that it's going to be kind of like a best of both worlds type thing. You have that stability with the government, but also, like, the government isn't that stable to begin with. We're losing money all the time due to inflation. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to hold most of my money in this CBDC, even though I quote unquote trust it. Most of my money is probably going to be within cryptocurrency. And if and when I think these CBDCs are going to integrate into these DEXs and all these other things, then I think it's going to be a very interesting way to just kind of utilize our money. And I think it's just going to ultimately push us towards crypto either way, right? Because if we have this integration within these DEXs, within all these DeFi platforms, then now we can seamlessly utilize everything together. So I think it's definitely a push in the right direction. And we'll just kind of see how far the Fed goes in terms of controlling our money. I think that's going to be the big determinant of whether people are for or against it.
Yeah, so we'll kind of see which direction CBDC's headed. I do hope the best for the outcome of the digital and cryptocurrency space in general. I think it's just a race. It's really a race to see, who's going to finish first and who's going to do the best first, not just within cryptocurrency versus, the standard centralized currency, but a race amongst nations as well. So we'll see where that goes. But that kind of wraps up today's podcast. Remember to follow and subscribe to our social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter, and Threads, all at the Masternodes. Our visual podcast experience can be found on YouTube, and our audio podcast experience can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all your other favorite podcast sources. Remember to visit our website, themasternodes.square.site. Click the link below to subscribe to our email list to receive the latest and greatest cryptocurrency information.